Upper Echelon is brought to you by Deloitte for innovative thinking and thorough strategic planning. Turn to Deloitte. Monhla Hlahla, the chair of the Industrial Development Corporation, is with us in our Upper Echelon this week. Monhla, I love these interviews because it gives me a chance to go back into the history and the background of these famous people like yourself. In fact, last time we saw each other was in Ethiopia, where you were one of the co-chairs of the WEF's Africa Summit. You seem to be in the spotlight all the time. Did you think, as a little girl growing up, that this was going to be your life?
No, no, not really. I think we all plan to do simple things and then find out that there are more exciting things to do.
So what happened along the way? Did you get pressed into national service? Because IDC, AXA, of course, everybody would know you from, and you are in the spotlight often. You're a role model often. What happened along the way?
I've always wanted to serve. I think for most of us Africans, and I think this would go well for every other African. You have a sense of wanting to do more for your society so that as you grow, you also see your people grow. And out of little things, because of that passion, you add other things to do where you could make a contribution and make positive impact to your society.
Why?
Because it gets me so inspired, Alec. Coincidentally, I chair the Industrial Development Corporation in Royal Bafokeng Holdings. And for both, it is the joy of contributing to a better life for South Africans and for me, because we all dream about different types of better lives, and it's better to contribute to that life now.
Royal Bafokeng Holdings was an interesting story with the platinum stocks. I'm sure
Yes.
it puts you in a confrontational position sometimes, I guess, with certain government policy. Platinum companies having a tough time right now.
Yes, it's really tough. It's good to know that it's not just you, it's the entire industry. And in a good way, the discussions between the industry and government, in my view, have been more mature, and there's been more willingness to understand each other than I have seen in a long time.
That's positive.
Yeah.
Let's just go back a little. Where are you from?
I am from Limpopo, Monhla Hlahla. That's where the Hlahlas are from. And yes, I'm home brew. I'm South African brew.
And was there much business when you were growing up within the family?
I'm actually a child of Barolong. They were cattle traders from Tabanchu all the way through Botswana, through Limpopo, and some of them ended up in Zimbabwe. So in more ways than one, they were quite hardworking, entrepreneurial, even during my generation of great-grandchildren. And they wanted their children to study and do better than them. And they believed so much in us, and they loved us very much. I think the combination builds you the confidence that you can at least have a full life.
And you certainly have. You'll be 50 next year.
Yes, and I look forward to it.
Big milestone. But having the opportunity to study abroad, doing your MA at UCLA in California, that's a privilege.
That was a privilege, and I think I wouldn't have received that were it not for what was happening in our country in the 80s. I've been a school dropout and managed to get back to school and to prove myself again. And the opportunity to go study overseas and to look at my country from outside is really one of the greatest privileges, because then you stop being as naive, as a young activist, that I'll have water in my village and there'll be big dams, and then you realize that there is a cost and payment to everything that we put across. And yeah, it's been wonderful.
And a lot of work.
And a lot of work.
And that's what you did at AXA. You were there for 10 years. It must feel like almost a lifetime from what it was like when you arrived there to after the World Cup.
Yes, it was a good 10 years. I like to say nowadays that I believe that for more younger people, I would wish they would try to do the same, where they go into any job or any career and they try and stick it out for a good number of years in those years, then you learn something and you can know that you can do something. And then you can move thereafter, instead of moving and trying different things and almost running away from the same lesson you should learn. It's been a great 10 years.
You got yourself into quite a lot of controversy over that time. Looking back on it now, do you feel that you were well treated or unfairly?
I think I was well treated. I think in a country like ours, being a leader of a state-owned enterprise says that you are in the forefront of shaping where the country is going to go. And you will have the biggest regulator, which is the public, through the media, focusing on you. And if you understand it that way, yes, the first few hours are personal and you want to cry, but hopefully the next few hours you realize that, maybe I'm lucky, maybe they're telling me where the weaknesses are, and try and shape up. In hindsight, it was a good way to shape my head about what roles we all play, including the media.
It's a fascinating approach. It's not one you see too often. All too often, the chairs of companies or executives of businesses, particularly in the private sector, have a confrontational attitude with the media. They feel that what they're being told is unfair. They feel that they need to defend their position. They don't see it as a learning process. And what made you different?
Because it was coming at me every day. I mean, I managed South Africa's main entry points. 99% of the time, South Africans are not happy with anything. And so you get to realize that I either accept that to be my operating climate or I sink. And the attitude that said, in the middle of all the noise, there must be something that they're telling you to improve on and try and put around you people that won't make you dwell on it. Honestly, in South Africa, as a state-owned enterprise, that's all there is. People are focused more on you. I think the private sector is a bit shocked that it has to happen to them, because if you open any paper, it's largely about the state than about the private sector. But the reality is, if information on the article is wrong and very poor, it's for all of us. And hopefully the media will also realize that they must grow as much as we do, to realize that there is more data today than ever before, and we can all package it differently. But for me, they've made me grow.
How do you feel when you walk around OR Tambo?
Very proud. I think the fact that I've taken this break this year has been good for me, because when you're too much in it, and you know people have been more critical than giving you a pat in the back, you tend to see more mistakes than positive things. Today I can tell the AXA family more than ever that you've done us proud as a country.
I think most South Africans would agree with that. Landing at that airport, coming back from wherever you might be in the world, there's no need to step back. It's just world class. But on the other hand, there is criticism from the industry that it costs too much. How do you now, given that you've had a little time away from the hurly-burly, how do you now perceive those criticisms?
Look, some of them were valid. I think the main issue for our industry was always about whether or not King Shaka should or should not have been built. And you know my position is that if you take out that 6.8 billion, yes, we would have probably had a lesser cost to the infrastructure improvements. But King Shaka is built, and in the medium to long term, it would be worthwhile. So to dwell on the fact that it should or should have not, from where I stand, and I used to say that when you study economics, they always tell you about Pareto efficiency, where you could make everybody well off without making anyone worse off. But they never told you that there are certain things, or there is a certain type of efficiency, where maybe doing something today which would ensure that in the long term, not many people would be worse off, maybe actually the better efficiency. There's no calculation like that, but I do believe that in the medium to long term, people will have forgotten that they were unhappy with the 6.8 billion, assuming that as a management team of AXA, they will look at the best way to optimize that asset so that the burden on the users is not as anticipated, and I think that is possible.
But like Gautrain to a degree.
Yes, infrastructure, the initial investment thereof is very high. And maybe if you look at how we implemented the infrastructure then, in a better way than even the Terminal 5 at Heathrow, I would hope we would realize that we can get more efficient as operators and look at the best way to manage our costs, but everybody has got to come into play so that we can maximize the experiences of previous developers maybe, and lax a little bit of the rules so that we sometimes gain efficiencies by asking the same people to do it for a lesser cost. There are very different ways that the new teams can look at. However, infrastructure is what we need to invest in as a country. And the experiences of the World Cup, I hope, will inform the population about how to do it better and about how to lessen the cost to each other. But it's got to be done.
Well, on a broader scale, as you were going through your times at AXA, and it was a long haul, lots happened during that period. Was there anybody that you listened to? Were there any role models that you could tap into?
A lot of people. The good thing about being put in a corner and being told every day you're not good enough is that you look at everybody else and see what makes them so good. I would watch Summit almost every day. I would watch programs on business to listen to other business people, especially those that I knew were facing challenges the same time as we were, such as the decline in the economic scenario, and people had to do new scenarios for development and delay certain projects. And I would say almost everyone who was a business leader in the last 10 years, I read something about them. I tried very much to learn from them without people knowing that I was just figuring out how they do it. And it's one of the reasons why the board of AXA put me on some boards, allowed me to sit on some boards, because then I could also hear what other companies were doing to deal with similar situations, even if it was different sectors.
All about listening.
It's all about listening.
Is that what you'd say to young people today who look to you as a role model?
Yeah, listen and learn. I mean, we all think we've got all the answers. We often don't. It doesn't mean that there aren't days where my ex-colleagues in AXA would tell you, where as the person that must make decisions, I wasn't the hardest. However, most of the time, to be able to lead, you've got to actually understand the heartbeat of where things are. Listening is almost key to leadership.
How about the IDC? You've been in the chair now for since full-time in the chair, officially since December last year.
Yes.
How have you found the last few months?
If there is a place that is probably facing more requirement for agility in South Africa today, is the Industrial Development Corporation. If you think about this old institution, where it builds the Sasols and some of the big companies we have today, suddenly we have a subsidiary of small business that we own, SIFA. And from big to small, what kind of people should you have? What kind of systems should you have? My message to the team always is, and the board, is that we almost called upon to look at everything that is the IDC, to check the extent to which it's still relevant to today, and how do we make it more relevant to today, because we almost have to back the state in everything that we have to be able to deliver on the industrial policy side.
It's an incredible mandate.
It is an incredible and huge mandate, an exciting one. However, if you're not well positioned from all resources of human capacity and systems, you're bound to always be hitting below the belt.
So what's next? You chair Royal Bafokeng Platinum. You chair the IDC. You're not in an executive role anymore as you were at AXA. Are you looking to get back into that kind of a position?
To be honest with you, I do miss running a business. I just knew that taking a break was good for me, and it has proven to be that way. And during that break, I have served enormously with these two beautiful companies. And in the process to realize that inside of me is just an individual that likes to build institutions and to put across the world some of South Africa's best institutions. If I can achieve that by being chairman, great. But right now I do miss being able to focus on one and shape it. But people tell me that it always happens to all individuals that have been CEOs, that during your break you realize that you are so used to doing that pressured job, you think you can't do the other. And it's about finding balance, and hopefully I'll find that which it is. But right now I know I miss running a business, and I'd like to do that again.
Monhla Hlahla, the chair of the Industrial Development Corporation in Upper Echelon, was brought to you by Deloitte for innovative thinking and thorough strategic planning. Turn to Deloitte.